Let me guess, you from the town that I love best. Talk Memphis, I wish you would. Talk Memphis, you sound so good.
Dan, welcome to the show.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm an afterthought, aren't I?
No, I can't decide if I'm going to introduce you now or right after the show, or right after the introduction. So,
oh, yeah, he's here.
Yeah, I forgot Dan's here. No, Dan Butler with CrestCore Realty is joining me today. But last week we spoke about Jackson.
Yeah.
CrestCore Realty is going to be managing, selling, buying in the Jackson, Tennessee, and rehabbing, maintenance, everything that we typically do here. We're going to be doing in Jackson, Tennessee, in Brownsville, some of the little surrounding towns and little small cities that surround Jackson. So we're really excited about Jackson, Tennessee. I'm going tomorrow to visit with the ladies.
Going Thursday.
There. You're going Thursday.
Yeah.
We'll definitely cover that. But today we're going to talk about what we learned in 2018 and what's coming up in 2019. And I always like to just kind of start off the cuff without our notes. But what's your 2018 highlight? What's your the biggest thing that you maybe learned or that came from 2018 that you're either excited about or sad about or anything?
Man, that's a good question. The biggest thing I learned in 2018, for me, one of the biggest, and this might sound small, but I realized I could take Sundays off and still be just as productive.
You mentioned that last week. Is that working? I mean, is that it's if you feel better about it, it's something that.
Yeah, I mean, I still do stuff, but I'm not like hard charging and sending emails, and it's more reflective and thinking and reading books and that kind of thing. Maybe work on the radio show, but not running the business, if you will. So
right. That's good.
That's been good for me.
I guess one of the things that I learned in 2018 is what goes up must come down.
Yeah.
We're reaching a price point to where I think we're reaching our peak of the price point. I believe that.
You see people trying to push it
down,
trying to push it down. So, but sellers are trying to.
Yeah, I also see them trying to keep creeping up.
They try to keep creeping up,
and it's just not happening. The buyers are stagnant. I mean, not all of them, but
sure.
In a huge picture, they're waiting. They're I can pay this, and then they're staying with it. I've had more. I'm staying with my price over the last 2 weeks than I have in 6 months.
Yeah.
And they're not coming in at 60 cents on the dollar, but they're coming in at 87,
right?
Or 90. So I mean, it's been a little bit of an adjustment, but anything in real estate, I've been in this long enough and sold several different products, new construction, general, did some REO stuff for a while, and you just got to adjust. I mean, you got to, and one thing we've said on here before, and what we say many times, you got to buy right. No matter if the market is flaming hot or if we're going through a dip, in the overall market. Of course, I get on this show and I talk with you, and I hesitate on saying this because it can be construed and accepted the wrong way, but I don't mind a bubble. I don't mind a little bit of a bust. And the reason why I say that, it doesn't do any good for the residential market. But in our world, if we have a little mini crash and all of a sudden there's a ton of foreclosures and, bankruptcies and different things like that go along with a market dip, we're going to find properties substantially cheaper. From an investment standpoint, we'll have investors come out of the woodwork with cash that are ready to buy. So I take it as, it's not a huge, I'm not on the air here talking about gloom and doom because we're selling 20 or so this month. So I mean, there's still buying and still action. I can just see the prices are coming to a point to where I think we're peaking right now. And then a few of the savvy investors are still offering and still in the game and still trying to buy, but they're not coming in going, here's full price, we'll take it and let's run. There's a little bit more strategigetic approach, I guess I should say, from the buyers. And
I think you're seeing that on the retail side as well.
Yeah, they're flatlining.
They're flatlining. It'd be great to have Wendy on here in 1st of January to get
she's
last
coming in
quarter.
the second week to give us the third or fourth.
That'd be exciting to hear how the year ended with what we think we see versus no,
Versus
she
what
tells
she's gonna
you,
come in and tell us.
yeah.
It either confirms what we're talking about, or she steers us in another direction for sure.
You know, one thing that I think Douglas and I are on a mission for 2019 is, you know, we've long, you know, had all kinds of assumptions when we buy things, you know, vacancy rates and maintenance and all that kind of stuff. I mean, taxes and insurance is about the only thing you can almost, you know, and that taxes changes every, 3 years, and you have to fight that. But, you know, we're on a mission to figure out make sure we can figure out how to buy right. Meaning, you know, we got all this data, you know, no different than the hedge funds, you know, and that's how they paid all these analysts, and that's how they've kind of zeroed in on what they do. You know, we kind of want to get that same methodical, scientific approach, you know, versus, you know, I think it's 50% expenses, you know, I think versus no, I know, you know, and so we want to get that down to that nitty gritty, and not just hope and a prayer. You know
Analyze a little bit more.
Yeah, just learn it by map code, and, you know, not just zip code, but map code, you know, like, you know, we've talked about this before, but Fraser gets bashed, but I guarantee you there's certain pockets in Fraser which I know because I own in several of them, which they do great. You know, anything on Mountain Terrace, I've always done really well with, you know, but you get off, you know, Fraser Boulevard and go a little bit north right there, before you get to Raleigh Millington, that little pocket right there, it's just tough.
Over there.
And so you can almost not give me a house. You know, we met with a nonprofit yesterday that deals with blight, and they were asking about that. I'm like, that's one of the key things we've learned is like, no matter what the price is on certain areas,
you're just not taking it.
You're just not going to take it because it's not worth, you know. And he's like, what can we do? And I'm like, well, if you can figure out how to get the city involved to, you know, neighborhood watch and security or sky cops or, you know, something that would actually help, you know, we might reinvest in those areas. So.
Sky Cops works, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, no, we've helped probably 10 of our clients buy them over the last couple of years. They work really well.
You make a little donation to the city, right? And they put one up, monitor it for you.
Yeah, you buy it and donate it to the city, and then the city kind of takes it over from there, and they monitor it and all that good stuff. So it's good stuff.
Another thing that I learned in 2018 is to, and we kind of touched on this, is stay aggressive. I don't confuse that with go buy anything, and go recklessly just get houses under contract. But stay aggressive with your search, stay aggressive with your numbers, stay aggressive with your area. So if you're focusing on 2 or 3 zip codes, you know, dive into that even further, find out more. You kind of just touched on this, research a little more, modify your search. If you used to, you know, I have some guys that, Dean, I'm only going to buy a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, period. It doesn't matter. Whereas, you know, you can get a 3-1 or a 2-1 or 2-2 or whatever it may be, and it's still a good product. I would just say open up your mind a little bit. And then we use the Grant Cardone, you know, 10X everything. My sales team is going through a little bit of that right now. You know, if you want to hit some goals that we're not hitting, you know, 10X it, meaning 10 times your effort, 10 times your calls, 10 times your emails, 10 times the time you're spending, you know, whatever it may be. Yeah. Just continue to push and continue to grind.
And I think, you know, like that person you're talking about stuck on the 3-2. I mean, I think you got to zig when people are zagging.
Yeah, you say that all the time, but there's a whole lot of truth to that. I mean, talk a little bit about that. Like,
it's just like Warren Buffett talks about, you know, be fearful when others are greedy and greedy when others are fearful. You know, and kind of the same concept. If people are being greedy on certain types of houses or certain areas, man, go find another area that's kind of untapped, you know, or not as tapped, or, you know, can you turn an area around, you know, by your involvement, you know, just, or different size or condos or, you know, what is, you know, so just thinking outside the box a little bit, not just saying, man, I can't find any houses in Berkeley. Well,
go outside of Berkeley.
Go outside of Berkeley, you know,
right.
I mean, but I mean, I had to do that years ago. I mean, I love Berkeley, and I you know, bought a ton over the years in that area, but at the end of the day, if you want to grow substantially, you can't just stick to that one zip code.
Yeah, and I always hesitate too on just holding tight on one area. I mean, because if that area for some reason were to turn on you, now Berkeley's been super strong for a long time, but if it were to, and that's the only thing you've got going on, you're gonna catch yourself at a bad spot. So, you know, expand your horizons. Think a little bit outside the box if you typically have not done that. 2019. What do you think's coming?
I mean, I think rising interest rates.
You think rising rates are coming?
Yeah.
How much?
I think it's going to be at least 6%.
Where are we at now? 5.5?
Probably 5.5 on commercial. I don't know what Fannie Mae. I don't track that as close, but I think commercial notes are going to get 6+. I think that's
our world.
Yeah, I think that's where it's going. I think you're going to see the house pricing still creep up a little bit. Maybe not as significant. I think you're going to see. With that, I think you gotta have rents gonna continue to go up.
Mm-hmm.
Not like
dramatically,
not like Florida where you're gonna go up hundreds of dollars, but I think you're gonna go up 10, 20, 50 here and there, depending on the pocket. So, What about you? What do you think?
I'm not a forecaster or predictor, but I do try to look in ahead and find out what's coming. I believe that Memphis is going to stay strong on a national level. We were like killer for so long. The prices have come up. I still think it's strong, but I think we're going to see an adjustment in 2019 that will be positive for the investors that are looking to purchase. I think that you're going to get a little bit better quality of home that's out there. I think some of the turnkey products that were bought 4 and 5 years ago are, people are now in that time frame of selling. I mean, I just sold 4 this week that were turnkey properties when she bought them 4 years ago. Matter of fact, the 3 investments of the week today are the rest of her package that she had bought 4 or 5 years ago. Now she's moving into some commercial real estate in California. But
isn't that funny? Like, that's just another classic story of just nothing wrong with the houses, but she just wants to try commercial.
There's absolutely nothing wrong. I've seen them. They're occupied and cash flowing, and she just has another idea that she wants to get into. And I think that you're going to see, because we'll talk about that for a second. I think in people's minds, they believe, I'm going to buy these and I'm going to keep them for 50 years. I'm going to pass them to my kids, and they're going to do, and that could be your strategy. But life does happen, or opportunities do come up, and she clearly had an opportunity in San Diego where she wanted to use this money, and it was just time for her to sell. Because I asked her the question, I always ask a seller, what's causing you stress that you want to sell them? Oh, nothing. Like, well, why are you selling them? She goes, well, my family's in she told me the story. They're in an opportunity in a commercial thing, and she could buy into that opportunity, so she's going to do that. So you're going to be faced with unfortunate circumstances of life where you have to sell, and then the opportunities of life where you want to sell. Yeah. So I think we're coming into that. I think in 2019, because if you look at it, 2013 started that really hot time for turnkey. Not to say that they weren't selling before, but man, in 2013 and 14, it began this process of Memphis is super hot. Turnkey products are everywhere. I think we're going to hit a cycle in 19 where there's some people that are selling them for various reasons. This is the second person over the last couple of weeks that I've had come to me and want to do this.
So what do you think it's going to do to just inventory itself?
I think we're going to have more.
Do you?
Yeah, I really do. I think we're going to have more. I got 2 meetings today with people that want to sell. It's a total of 11 houses. So I believe that we're going to have the products to sell. And now here's the $1 million question. You know what I'm about to say, but for how much?
Right.
That's going to be the friction at the beginning of the year. I think in the first quarter, going into the second quarter, we're going to have is there are people that want to sell, but they should have sold about a year ago. If they're wanting these peak prices, they should have sold about a year ago. So I think we're going to have some changes and some, just some adjustments. I've written down adjustments on this on our notes a couple of times. You just got to adjust the way you're doing business. Don't shy away from this process. Just continue to buy right and be smart. If it's the numbers don't work, but there's something else that's shiny and glaring at you, just be careful. Proceed with caution. That you're not getting caught up in the hoopla of it.
I think you're going to see some operators go away.
Really?
I do.
As far as who?
Real estate,
just turnkey providers,
turnkey property management, construction. or a different business model. I think, one example I can think of where he's shifted from, still does some turnkey, but now he focuses on loans. Just a different bite of the same apple, just something different angle. But I just think that, depending on the scale, some people, just depends on the scale of the business. You got some that have created this massive overhead, with dozens and dozens of people. That's just not sustainable, I don't think, with the inventory. That's what's going to be fun for you and I to kind of watch and talk through, because you think it's going to go up. I think it's going to be flat or lower. Mm-hmm. And so, if you built this big machine, you got to figure out where to find that inventory, or you're going to have to scale back, because your overhead is what's going to kill you.
I have heard some turnkey providers state that they're struggling to find properties to buy that fit their model.
Right.
Yeah,
because I don't think you can get Memphis. It'd be interesting to see. Can we get Memphis above a 1% rule or below a 1% rule?
I don't know. I don't think so. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
If an investor,
you're going to see somebody that's at 0.75 or,
I don't know. I wouldn't think so, Dan. I don't know, man. Yeah. You think so?
No, I don't either. But I
don't know if anyone's going to accept that.
I think 1% is hard enough to swallow and just, and most people can get their head around like the new construction at 1%. I think that's probably where you're going to see the most activity is new construction, build to rent.
What we mean by 1% too is if it's a $100,000 house, it rents for $1,000. 1% of the sales price.
Yeah, is your rent.
Is your rent. Mm-hmm. What's another? One of your notes here was don't get too emotionally attached to any property. What do you mean by that? Do you see that often?
A little bit. Both ways. Somebody just looks at the numbers and kind of dives in and just falls in love with the house and not the numbers.
Yeah.
Or falls in love with the house. The numbers are telling you to sell, but you don't sell. So we've just kind of learned, you should always be buying. You should always be selling.
Is there a way to avoid that emotional attachment? Because I see that. I see exactly what you just said. I see the emotional attachment on the spreadsheet, and I see the emotional attachment on the pictures of the house.
Right.
Right. Especially because most of my clients are out of state. So they either really fall in love with that spreadsheet or they really fall in love with the pictures, and they get blinded by one or the other.
Yeah. On the buy side, I think your spreadsheet, that's what we were talking to that nonprofit that deals with blight yesterday. It's like, there's houses that we had in North Haven for $12,000. You would think that's like the 3-point-something% rule, and
yeah, but it's North Haven,
and we still lose money. And so you can't just fall in love with the spreadsheet. You need to understand the demographics of the area. Are there jobs? Are there businesses? Are there, what's the tenant pool? So just understanding that area, just like we always talk about west to third and east to third, you got to understand that kind of stuff. So you get hooked into a spreadsheet, and you're looking at west to third, be careful,
Proceed with caution. So
the spreadsheet doesn't tell all the answers. You got to look, at some of the other data around like schools and crime and, especially if you're, being local, that helps, and finding a local expert, whoever that may be, is key to that, And if you don't have a local expert, you definitely need to be Googling every bit of data you can find. So
here's what I got one this week. A guy called me about California, found me on Zillow. Zillow. And he said that a home provider, that was his words, here in Memphis had sent him a 3-house package in 126.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Like $68,000 for 3 houses that were all occupied at $550. And of course, what did he do? He fell in love with what?
The numbers.
He fell in love with that spreadsheet.
Which is that's the nonprofit that I deal with, work with, is down there, and that's one of the top 2 poorest zip codes in the nation. So you got to understand that. You might want to say, I still want to try it, but you got to understand what you're going into.
What I told him, because it does look fantastic. It was $1,650 in rent for $60,000. So,
right.
That looks.
Whereas I got calls yesterday from a guy buying it $1,550 rent for $174,000.
Okay, so that's 2 ends of the spectrum.
2 ends of the spectrum, right?
So he was, he was an international investor. I think he was out of California, but he wasn't He had an accent of some kind. So, he's asking me and he's talking about it. And, he was shocked that I didn't say, man, this is great. He's like, he even asked me, like, don't you work on commission? Like, he asked me that question. I was like, I do, but I also have some more.
I got to sleep at night.
I got to be able to live with myself. And
part of that's being on the property management side, what we're going to deal with on the back end,
I just
after you sign the signature and it's under our management, you're going to get all kinds of,
But he kept, well, let's look at the, and I was like, sure. I mean, let's take a few minutes. Let's take a look at it. And he was like, there were 550 rentals. So it was 1650 in rent. And he's, I know what he's doing.
Oh yeah.
He's going 60,000. I can have this paid off. He's running through the numbers. And I said, I just let him finish, because I don't want to come across as discouraging because you need to learn, right?
That's right.
Like it's a learning process. So he went through the whole thing and I did this with him. Your rule, you're 50%. I said, and I even went further. I was like, all right, do this for me. I said, I just know this market. I know this area. I said, take out 65% of the gross rent. I mean, like a ton of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, take that out and then run the numbers. So he's feeling it. And all of a sudden he goes, well, that's, that's okay. All of a sudden I was like, well, if that's just okay and you don't feel good about it, I was like, you need to pass. I said, you're just going to run into way more headaches, way more turnover, maintenance, crime.
Yeah.
If it goes vacant, then Lord help you.
Yeah,
because the vandalism. I mean, you're going to have constant issues with the house if it's vacant. So
and that's what when we were talking to that nonprofit yesterday that deals with the blight and stuff. I was like, man, I said we are doing ourselves a disservice by the city and others not getting involved in like 38126 and having support systems. Because people slowly, more and more, slowly those are just becoming areas that nobody's going to, I mean, there's no retail buyers.
Yeah.
None. I mean, to speak of, a couple percentage points that somebody that could actually get a loan and get approved and, buy it for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So then that leaves investors, and then your investor pool is shrinking by the day because of the reputations of certain areas. And it's just going to further affect that neighborhood. It's just going to cause more houses to go vacant and get vandalized and then tore down. And
is that on 126 is on the southeast side of
FedEx Forum?
Yeah, southeast side of FedEx Forum.
Yeah, going southeast on Vance, and
man, that's tough.
Yeah, and so anyway,
I'll be honest with you; those are areas I mean, there's very few areas I don't drive. That'd be one of them.
Yeah,
I just don't even.
I hear you.
All right, so let's talk about don't try to be all things to all people. Talk about that. That's one of your notes. Have you learned? Is that a 2018 learn?
It is a 2018 learn. Yeah, we talked a little bit about this last week, and just I talked to a guy in Florida yesterday that wants us to manage a bunch of his houses, but he wants to do it his way, and enter the data this way and do this collections different, like totally different from our systems. And he's like, "Oh, it'd be easy," and I was like, "Man." I said, kind of like you were with it's funny, we were kind of similar conversations, but different. Like, I'm like, man, I just don't want to fail. I'm like, I just know when we get good at our process, we've worked hard to get our processes in line. And I said, if we take you on and you got a whole different process, I mean, all I see is a bunch of emails coming back. Why this? What'd you do this? You know what I mean? Like,
and
I just can envision, I can see the path of where it's going to lead to. And because it can cause a rub because he's wanting it done a certain way. And our people are so trained in the processes that we've created. So I've just learned sometimes you got to say no, and just, don't make exceptions.
Did you say no?
Told him I'd look at it.
Yeah.
I didn't give him a hard no. I mean, because he gave some ways that could work that, that wouldn't be too far off the rails.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the chances of it working out to the end, that's what's funny. I turned him away 2 years ago. So they've kind of modified because 2 years ago it was real extreme, but they've been unsuccessful
at getting anyone to do that.
Get anybody to do it and do it successful for them. So you would think they'd learn on their end. You got to fall into some other systems. So
on your notes here, you got rather have small portfolio clients versus large institutional. Why do you say that?
That's something, I
this
used
is
to.
From management, I'm sorry.
From
this
management,
is from proper management standpoint, yep.
Just, I think that for us, we've just seen a lot of our peers and friends and even ourselves, when you get to a certain size, you start wanting to do things on your own. create your own management company, ask for concessions,
with everything.
So it just becomes like it's not as profitable, versus a person that's 1, 2, 5 houses. You're not going to lose, for lack of better words, 500 2-house people.
Yeah.
No. Versus you could lose 10, 50 house people. That's
yes,
through their own devices of, they've gotten their systems down or they've hired somebody. There's a certain scale that, we have a client right now that if he just was a little bit bigger, I'd totally tell him to just buy his own or pay for his own person and just, and have him manage the whole portfolio with his own full-time employee. Then he can do exactly what he wants, how he wants. So I think we've just learned, it's kind of like that Walmart model. I learned that in manufacturing, like,
hey, what's up?
We had just had, we had a couple of manufacturing plants that were solely making products that were tied to a Walmart cell.
Mm-hmm.
And so if Walmart buyer, purchasing agent, whatever they call them, buyers, I think, decides they don't like your product or you won't go low enough on the price, they just go to the next supplier.
Yeah.
And so I've seen plants shut down
over that.
Oh yeah. And there's one in Memphis that I was, manager over, and, it took a third of the business away. And so then it became, the plant was just not sustainable with the overhead and the lease cost, and you know what I mean? Just the energy.
And that was a decision. Oh, it was a Walmart decision?
It was a Walmart deal that they decided to go a different direction, and it can cripple you.
Just like that.
So the same concept with our clients. We just don't want anybody to be able to cripple us to where we built this machine, put infrastructure in place.
We want to build our machine, not
right.
a machine around something else.
Yeah, and I think that's something else, I would lead into is just, I think people get so caught up in what's everybody else doing.
Mm-hmm.
I've had this conversation with some guys last week that are on our team. Like, man, I really do not care what other competitors in the city are doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
I don't ever think about it.
I just, and then when people try to pull me into that kind of stuff, I'm like, man, I don't really care.
Mm-hmm.
All I'm focused on is where we're trying to go. We have our vision. We have our,
We've reached this company size, in my opinion. We might have thought that 4 years ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? 4 or 5 years ago, we might have thought, hey, we need to follow a trend. I think at this point, it's like, not to say that we're perfect and that we know the know-all. And I don't think that's the message we're trying to deliver here, but we have an idea of our goals and what we want, and we're just on a straight and narrow path of, this is how we get there. Let's do it the right way. And, and no matter what anyone else is, kind of doing or what a trend is telling you to do, we know what we want and know how to get there.
That's right. That's my point. Just don't worry about what others are doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's good to kind of keep a ear for like what's some trends, and that's why we have, I'm meeting with a friendly competitor today at lunch.
Yeah.
Share ideas and maybe even help them, in a certain way that we can do some work for them.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of relationships that we want, and then you share ideas that way. But I think that I've just learned this year, just, to get our culture around, don't worry about what others are doing. Let's focus on where we're going. Let's build our business.
I think that's powerful, even for the smallest investor.
Oh, for sure.
If you're just starting out and you're listening right now, I think the takeaway from that small 2-minute segment there was, do your own thing. Listen, educate yourself, hear what everybody, but if you've got a direction and a path that you want to go in, stay with that. Go with that.
Because I had that conversation with somebody last week. They made the point about, how many houses we have and how big we've gotten with our personal portfolio. I was like, man, I said, don't. They were taking it from a discouraging angle. You know what I mean? Like that. I can't. You're so far ahead of me.
How am I going to get there?
How am I going to get there? I'm like, dude. There was years where I was doing one house a month, one house every 2 months. There was a hiatus after I bought an apartment. I didn't buy anything for a year. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So there's times. But I was on my own path, and so I wasn't worried about somebody else's path.
No.
I just created my own. What do you want your path to be? If you have that limited belief that, I can't do it, or
then you won't.
I won't be like them, or I can't be like them, then you won't. So
you're right.
But if you say, I'm going to create this path to have 50 houses by the time I'm 35, 40, whatever that age is, you can do it if you want.
You just got to keep going and keep doing your own thing. And, of course, listen to the Memphis Real Estate Hour.
That's right.
You got to do that. Dan, what you got some goals? Let's talk about some goals for 2019 here in this last segment.
Goals.
Got a revenue goal.
Yeah, just hit certain revenue for us as collective of companies. Hit a certain margin, 15%, net. Mm-hmm. We just feel like that's a healthy place to be. So whatever we do, we don't want to be anything that's less than 15% net. And it's like, man, and you start thinking about it, like 15% ain't that much. It takes a lot of money, a lot of revenue, to make it where 15% actually makes a difference. But, third market, I think we want to be in a third market by the end of next year. So we'll see what that looks like.
That's going to be exciting.
Yeah. How about you? What's some of your goals?
To establish Jackson as far as sales oriented. I mean, we're there, but to begin transactions in Jackson, we're working on that actually for January. So consistent stream of Jackson transactions. We have grown. One thing that I was shooting for 19, but we've jumped ahead a little bit, is we've opened and started our retail and residential division. Alyssa Fowler is heading up our residential and retail division. So it's actually something really, it's very exciting. Yeah. So we're no longer, I guess to explain that and what I mean by that and why it's so exciting is, we've been so busy. I've been so busy. If I had friends and relatives call me, I would list their personal home and do that. But outside of just a friend and relative, I would refer that business to another agent. I just didn't feel like I could adequately give it enough time to properly service that client. So I would refer it out. Now we're bringing all of that in-house. We're actively pursuing residential retail listings and sales and buyers. Alyssa's got several years of experience with this, and I'm really, really, really excited to have her on board. She's if I'm excited, she's 10 times excited about it. So that's great. We've got a residential and retail division that we're going to start. What about you? Anything else?
Just a lot of culture for 2019. Getting, we want a high performance team. We want to, add benefits for our employees. Get that selfless service culture. We're just others focused. I really think that's important to. I mean, you see it in the office. We're just trying to always trying to help people, you know, and help each other, and not stay in silos, and not try to be, somebody we're not. Just help, and so help others succeed, help others win, whatever that looks like in the day to day. I think that's what we want to do with our culture. And I mean, you said it day before yesterday. Just those that are in our team, they've got to be high performers.
That's a big motto with ours. We use a lot of RTMs, remote team members. So if you're we're going through some of that now. And by the way, that isn't easy to relay. That's not easy to get across to your employees, to your people that are on your staff that work for you. But if you're in our office,
you're not in there for a paycheck.
You're not there to ride the clock, and you're there for a paycheck. We've got to have something from you. You've got to want to be there. You've got to want to dive in and give us 110% of everything you've got, but it's super rewarding. So that's the bonus part about it, is we're not asking it to be a one-way street. Hey, give us. And we take, but it's a give and take, you give us what you have. We're going to provide this place to work and be very rewarding from a goal-oriented standpoint. A goal of mine for 19 is I personally want to, I'm shooting for 9 to 11 houses to purchase in 19.
Okay.
That's just
a little less than one a month.
Personal goal, a little less than one a month. So, I'm actually looking now for the first quarter to either get a 1 or 2 or a 3 or 4 house package. So, and it's important for each individual to set those goals. I mean, you can say all day, hey, I want to buy 10 houses in 2019, but if you don't have any kind of plan, and we've talked about that you can go back in any of the past shows talking about a plan in place. But I do have a plan. I mean, I've got some ways I'm looking for certain houses and certain areas that I'm looking in, and I would encourage all the other investors that are listening, if you've got goals in 2019, you got to come up with a plan now. I mean, don't look at it the first week of January and be like, what am I going to do? Because I'm telling you, I've done this in the past. You'll sneeze and cough a couple times, and it's mid-February. Oh yeah, you're halfway through the quarter.
Flies through.
Yeah, and it flies through.
I got an extreme one for me. I want 1 free day a week with no appointments or any meetings.
So one day during Monday through Friday.
Monday through Friday, not Saturday, Sunday. Monday
no
through Friday.
Appointments and no meetings.
Yeah.
Why do you do that? What are you wanting to spend your time on those days or that day?
Stuff that I'm good at that will help the business get to the next level, whether it be growth or new opportunity or new deal or, just maybe personal growth,
Yep.
maybe exercise is part of that, just basically whatever I want it to be, not just let the day control me. So I've been doing that for so long where the day kind of controls me.
Is that every day for you?
What's that?
That your day controls you?
In the sense of, I say that it's filled with appointments and meetings. And, one of my buddies from South Carolina texted me last night. He's like, how many level 10 meetings you have? And I'm like, 5. He's like, my goodness, I'm like,
yeah.
And those are hour-and-a-half meetings, which they're all very, very productive and very, very needed.
Yep.
And as you know, that's the only business meeting we have with each business leader. But, that's, so that just lends itself to like, I'd love a day to recharge within that week. So
sounds like middle of Wednesday might be the day.
Wednesday, Thursday, something like that.
After you put a few in.
Yeah, it's tougher. It's just tougher to do than you think.
Is it?
Oh yeah, try it. Try to do a half a day. So
I can't with the amount of phone calls and different things that I schedule because of out of state clients. It's hard. That would be close to impossible.
I was going to say you're about to say an absolute.
Yeah, it's
impossible.
Close to. Yeah, no, I wasn't saying impossible. Look at Dan teaching me in here. Look at you, Dan.
Well, so what I do is I put on my calendar. What I did is to preempt that up on Thursdays. Right now, it's all blacked out. And so I have to when I go to talk to somebody and look at my days open. I'm like, ooh, do I really want to put it on Thursday?
Yeah.
So.
Well, I want to say this. This is the last show of the year. We've been doing this for 2.5 years, and I can't thank everybody enough for listening to the show. The responses that we're getting, we're super proud of it. We're very grateful for the opportunity to bring this information to you. So we just want to, from myself and Dan, the team here at AM 990 KWAM, we're really appreciative. Thank you for listening to the show. We'll be back in 2019. We're going to play the next 3 weeks our zip code challenge. So you guys stay tuned to that. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you at the first of the year. All right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thanks.